Today, as part of our Business Spotlight program, we're with Barry Keatley. He's the owner and director of the Virtual Driving Hub, and he's based in Athy in County Kildare. So over to you, Barry. What is it you do, and for how long have you been doing it?
Hi, Kevin. Good to be here, and thanks for contacting me. Uh, I have the first of its kind, the Virtual Driving Hub, which is, as you said, based on Athy in County Kildare. Uh, it's a simulator company, and the simulators can simulate most machines out there, everything from cars, vans, lorries, diggers, dozers, tractors, combines, right up to tower cranes.
Wow.
There's 20 different machines on it, plus all the attachments. In the center here itself, people can come and they come to learn how to drive these different machines. We can certify on some of the different machines, but I'm also the only agent of multi-use machines simulators in Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So, and
basically
again,
what we do here in a nutshell.
right. And of course, we're saving people having to work with actual machines and also sustainability, etc., and all that stuff.
Well, what it is and why different companies choose to use the center here, it's totally green training. There's no downtime of their actual machines. You
Right.
know, I do a lot of on-site stuff where I go out and I have to use people's actual machines,
Mhm.
but there is no downtime of their machines. There is no risk of damage to anybody's machines. There's no risk of injury to the personnel involved. So it's totally green, and as well as that, it goes towards the company's environmental impact statement as well. So
Fantastic.
it's kind of ticking a lot of boxes along the way.
Fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant, Barry. And we were chatting earlier. You had a number of personal sort of challenges to overcome before you set up this business. Yeah.
Well, the kind of the lead up for me to set up this business, I was always a machine driver. I was born and reared on a farm. I was always a machine driver, and when I was a machine driver operator myself, I burnt the candle at both ends. I ended up falling asleep at the wheel one night coming home, um, which I've actually done a documentary on YouTube. It can be found on the accident story of Barry Keatley, and anybody out there has my permission to use it, and please show it to your staff if required. Uh, yeah, I fell asleep, which led to a lot of life-changing decisions, but mostly I was on the broad of my back for a year in hospital with neither the legs moving.
Ouch.
I progressed into a wheelchair, and I was in a wheelchair for another year. Went back driving machines and that as well. And then I just said there had to be another way of making a living. And at the time, all I knew was machines. So I trained up through the IITD. I got a qualification in training and development. From there, I went to Solace and I sat their exams and I became a Solace instructor of machines. Whilst uh, training people, assessing people through the Solace program, I just realized, you know what I mean, the standard of driving just wasn't there. There was no place that people could go to actually receive adequate training, you know, in a safe location. So I just said there had to be another way to look at this. And I investigated and I went down the route of simulators. I looked at a number of different simulators across the world, and I ended up settling with a company called Tenstar, who operate out of Sweden. Uh, they had a simulator here in Ireland they had it on loan to actual. They were trying to get it into Solace, and it was over in Mount Lucas, and it wasn't being used. So I acquired that one, and I set up my front sitting room, back in
Mhm.
2019.
Wow.
It has progressed on from there through a lot of knocking on doors. That I now have my own center, which I opened in March of last year.
Congratulations. Yeah, well done.
In the center here, there is 5 different simulators and a VR station. With the 5 different simulators, all the simulators can work together, so they can link in to create a multi-machine environment. So you could have one person driving a digger, loading a dump truck, which is in return putting in the front of a bulldozer. Somebody else can do the VR station where they literally put on the VR goggles and they can appear in the screen as an avatar and they go around and do all the engine checks or work as a banksman or that in it. So we've built a place up now that we have the five simulators here. A lot of the time I'm on the road with them. Uh, I go from one end of the country with these. A lot of it is for company safety days, or we go out doing actual training days. Uh, I'm very fortunate I got in along with the prison service. So I could be in Mountjoy, I could be in Shelton Abbey, I could be in Castlerea. So it's on the road, and yeah, it's taking off just nicely for me.
Fantastic.
Uh,
And
apart from
you're kind of training the prisoners there to get them assimilated back into society.
training them up and giving them a new outlook on life and giving them new skills that they can use.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, because we can get them reintegrated, without, that's obviously benefit to the whole society.
Well, you'd have a lot of people in there, you know what I mean, and basically you're dealing with people from right across the spectrum, you know what I mean. But there is people that could have been in just for simple stuff,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, that deserve that second chance. Or you have those hardened criminals that just want to get away from it. You know what I mean? And you integrate them, you get them into jobs, and yeah, they're happy with that. You know what I mean? Because an awful lot of these, there could be career criminals that spent more times behind bars than in bars. You know what I mean? In front of them. So, yeah, they'll like the opportunity, and they really prosper when you do get them a job.
fantastic. Yeah, because I remember seeing stats before on prisons where you get a lot of dyslexic people who drop out of the education system and then are left with very few choices if they're in a kind of deprived area. And practical stuff like this is something you can do.
I left school at 14, hardly any read and write, and dyslexic, and now I have my own company and I'm a teacher.
Yeah, the other famous dyslexic is who's the blonde hair the English guy. It's gone out of my head. It'll come back in a minute. Um, but yeah, it's recognizing the skills. Our education system is very sort of reading based, whereas we
Yeah.
need to broaden that out, which is what you seem to be doing, which is fantastic.
Well, what we do then, we bring in the schools and that here as well, or
Oh,
we work
wow.
with schools and we work with youth reach, youth diversion. We bring them in here. I talk to them about all the different career opportunities that's available out there for them as professional drivers. I
Mhm.
tell them how to get those qualifications. I then open up the simulators to them and I tell them to try every machine on it.
Wow.
Find and ask them to find something that they have an interest in. Uh, so you'd be trying to glorify them as well. So if you have them on the articulated dump truck, you tell them in real life one of those machines is a 500,000 to buy. So I said your company car is going to be 500,000. They're going to they'll start you off at
Yeah.
about 20 quid an hour driving them. So you're trying to encourage them to get into it
Wow.
and to find a job that they're going to be happy at or something that they have an interest in. So you're trying to
Okay.
create a new career path for them as well.
Yeah. So the yeah, of course. So yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we definitely need this. I think Germany are probably ahead of us in this, but we definitely need another stream apart from the academic stream, if you like that.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, and you've covered a good bit of it, but what do you attribute your growth to that over the years since you started up?
Starting off was not easy. You know what I mean? I didn't come from a business background.
Okay.
And I had a lot to learn, and I still have a lot to learn. You know what I mean? I have hit a lot of stumbling blocks along my way.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's only recently now that I'm up and running that I can actually apply for tenders.
Right. Okay.
You
Get
know, you know,
to fill on this. Yeah. Okay.
like the stipulation on the tenders now. And I lost out on a few of the bigger ones because I didn't have the 3 years behind me with the finances behind it to back it up.
Right. Right.
And it was to gather up the accreditation. Now I have it. You know what I mean? I'm securing tenders,
Right.
and I'm in a lot better place now. But
Fantastic.
but like for the first couple of years, you couldn't apply for them because you needed a minimum of 3 year. You needed a certain
Yeah.
turnover, and it just wasn't there. So it's a stumbling block. It was a major stumbling block for a new company because it went like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we do need a bit more flexibility, don't we? Yeah, yeah. The guy I was trying to think of was Richard Branson, of course, was the
Mm,
dyslexic, and I think
yeah,
his first job was editor of a magazine, which was
yeah.
impressive. No, that's fantastic, really, Barry. So if you had to start from square one in business again, what would you do differently, do you think?
Well, I kind of started out fair enough on the right enough foot because knowing nothing about actually running a business,
Hmm.
I went and I sat, you know what I mean, small business courses. And I'd recommend, you know what I mean, that apart from that, you look into accountancy, you know what I mean, not just the business, the accountancy side of a thing.
Hmm.
You have to know your customer inside out. You have to know your business inside out.
Right, right,
Uh, and I just kind of hit the ground and I tried to run, which didn't happen. You know what I mean?
right.
As I say, I was operating from a long time out of my front sitting room,
Yeah, you're saying that, yeah.
you know, and it's taken me a couple of years now, but now the centre is here. They're being more and more recognised because I was the first in the country. It was like trying to explain the ocean to the frog in the well.
Well, I haven't heard that one. I might use it in the future. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, accountancy, of course, is the language of business. I know myself. My father put me into that when I came out of school, and it was great. It always stood to me. And I was never going to become an accountant, but
yeah.
you understand the language if you're going to work. So I think if I summarize what you're saying is, get some small business advice, get some coaching, which I'd be a big
Oh,
fan of.
you know what I mean. Without you know what I mean. Without the business advice and the coaching, I I would have been going totally backwards.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, okay, fantastic.
You know what I mean? Because you know what I mean. Yeah, I've been involved in different businesses. I was four man on site and looked after a lot of different financial situations, but I had no knowledge of running my own business or what it was involved in it.
Yeah.
So yes, people do need to reach out. You know what I mean? The, the other companies are out there, the likes of yourself and all, for the business advice. It's money well spent.
Yeah,
You
well,
could you could waste a serious amount of money trying to do this yourself.
yeah, well, this is always the thing. If you flip it, what does it cost you not to do it,
Yeah,
And it does tot up. Well, listen, yeah, no, I'd be absolutely a believer in that. I mean, my own father had a business that failed. He was a great technician, was weighing scales and stuff,
yeah.
but he had no clue of business, and sure that he struggled bad. And it's not only the business owner themselves, but their family are also affected by all of this because everything was quite difficult. If he had known like a tenth of what we know now, I mean, it could have made a huge difference to everybody. But
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. So well, I think you've covered some of it, but what are your biggest learnings since you've been as an employer since you've begun in business?
It's to surround yourself with the right people.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Everybody is suited for a particular job. You know what I mean? You find out. I was very fortunate. I had a young man who came to me here actually on a youth reach course,
Hmm.
and he was out driving the machines. He was just very good on the machines. I asked him, had he ever driven machines before? He said, nope.
Right.
And then he asked me what was inside the machines,
Okay.
and he's a self taught technician.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's
And he was able to twist and turn these things inside out. And I said, do you want a job? So he,
them.
he now works for me, but because of the other companies that have purchased simulators, so you have the likes of Chagas who purchased 18 of them. You have a few of the different ETBs that have purchased them that as well. We look after all the updates and all the monitoring from here in our center.
Oh, right. Okay. 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 Fantastic. So yeah, it's being able to recognize the skill. This guy was a natural,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, it's to recognize the skills. As I say, I've dealt with a few different people before, and no, you have to be able to call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? It's just the writer suited for the job or the weren't suited for the job.
Mm,
And having the wrong people in the wrong places it does you no favors. I'm
absolutely.
fortunate now, you know what I mean? I hire in a lot of external people, different trainers in different areas. I handpick them. I honestly handpick them for the job. I'll take them in, I'll monitor them myself. I'll sit on the course of myself to delivering. And yet, they're either the people for my company or they are not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, there has to be a match. I suppose we do a lot of
Yeah.
work with people getting the culture right, getting the
And because, you know what I mean, I have a totally new product, you're starting off, you know what I mean? you're always wary of somebody trying to step into the breach and steal your bit of business.
That can happen too. That can happen too.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose the other side of it, how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Uh, you don't. You don't. I haven't learned that skill yet.
Okay.
Uh, for me, I'm very fortunate that I'm also a musician.
Okay.
And when I go out and I play those gigs, that's kind of my release
Okay.
away from it.
Fantastic.
It's only recently, yes, I took my first holiday this year in November because the rest of the year was just too crazy.
Wow. Okay.
But I said, you know what I mean? I have to schedule these things. I have to take the breaks
Yeah. Yeah.
because I find, you know what I mean? I'm in my office now, and this is my Sunday sanctuary in here because the phone doesn't ring up for Sunday, and I get to sit down and I get to catch up on stuff.
Oh God. Well, one thing I would say to you, Barry, on a serious note, you do need to take the breaks because no matter how strong we are,
Yeah,
burnout is something I see all the time with business owners,
yeah.
and, and it can be
Burnout, and it's time you're not getting paid for.
well, that's true too. And I think if you decide, given the drive that you've had, if you decide that you're taking time off and that it is important, you will do it. You'll get it
Yeah,
done. And again, this is all about systems and delegation, as you say. Surround yourself with the right people. You can delegate and take your time out. And I know it's one of the ones I'm working with a lot with business owners. A lot of the people I work with are making money. They're, all of that. They're busy. It does take time to focus in and treat it as a serious part of the business that you need to take breaks. There's a reason for that.
well, where I see it at the moment is I have to develop the business just that little bit further. And when I get those next few steps in place, then I can afford to put more people in place.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I can do what I'm meant to be doing.
Exactly. Because again, if you're stuck in the operations all the time, there's only so big you can get on the
Yeah.
business. Physically, no matter how, you have to sleep at some stage. But maybe, but the point is that if you do want to scale up, you got to obviously earn the more money to invest in the systems and the people, get the people to run the systems, get them to look after your customers that look after, and that business looks after you. And that's the kind of thing. Because I mean, our definition of a business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without.
Yeah.
Up to that, you've got yourself a job. You know,
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll leave that one with you. So when we
No,
talked
it's more of a relationship.
Uh, so what qualities do you look for in employees and how do you foster a positive and productive work environment? You kind of touched on it, but maybe if you give us a bit more detail. When you say are they a right fit, what are you looking
You need somebody first of all that understands the product.
for? Okay.
If they don't understand the product, you're on the back foot straight away.
Okay.
You need, for me, it was somebody, you know what I mean, with a keen interest and knowledge of technology.
Hmm.
Because I stepped into a whole new era for me. You know what I mean, as a machine operator now to be the owner of a simulator company, where before I used to struggle with my laptop.
Right. Right. Right.
You know what I mean. So I was is to put the right people in the right places. You know what I mean. Uh, to have the people with that goal, that drive, and start as you mean to go on. You know what I mean. There has to be those certain amount of boundaries. Here, when people are coming into me, I insist first of all you have to have a sense of humor, or you're just not going to last.
Well, certainly,
Um, you know what I
having,
mean.
yeah,
I tell them, if there's a problem, we talk about it.
yeah,
Don't try hide anything. I'll find it. So that
right,
could be worse. If you make a mistake, say you made a mistake. It's very
exactly.
simple. I make them. So,
Everybody,
and when I make them, you know what I mean? We sit down, we say, listen, I messed up.
right. Yeah,
But
it's
when they hear me admitting to it, it's easy enough for them to admit to it. And it gets fewer and fewer then.
yeah. I mean, I think we go back to kind of the culture of stuff and the core values. Like fun is one of my top core values, but accountability. Then I think you're mixing the two of those together, which
Yeah,
is they're two critical and key core values to have in a
yeah.
business.
And here, because we're dealing with the public the whole time, we're dealing with people from different spectrums. You know what I mean? So it's that, you know what I mean? That integrity. Everybody, you know what I mean? No matter who we're dealing with here has to be given first priority. They have to be made feel special and welcome.
And Dean, I suppose the whole safety aspect of the thing as well on top of
Well,
that.
it's the safety aspect of it as well. But we could be dealing with people in the centre here with learning difficulties.
Yes, right.
You know what I mean? We'd have people coming in here maybe from care,
Mhm.
uh, youth diversion, broad spectrum. And no matter who comes in here, everybody is treated the same.
Fantastic. No, that's brilliant, Barry. And I suppose just to round it up, what are some common misconceptions about running a business and how do you address them?
Yeah, first, everybody thinks you're loaded.
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably the biggest misconception out there.
Yeah,
Um, like the first couple of years, yeah, it was a serious struggle. You're wondering where you're going to get to cover your expenses for the following couple of weeks or even the previous couple of weeks. I'm fortunate enough now at the moment, everything is moving just nicely. It's moving in the right direction from me. But you have to have, you know what I mean, your cut-off plan. You know what I mean? You have to put your goals in place. And if they're not happening, it's time to sit down and have a chat with yourself. You could end up flogging a dead horse.
well,
And which is the realistic end of it. You know what I mean? Not a very small few businesses make money in the first 3 years,
yeah.
which is the stats. You know what I mean? I've been fortunate. I'm kind of there. It's just to find itself. It's building. It's paying for itself. But at the start, no, it's scary.
Yeah,
You
I
know, I
know.
when I started, I couldn't afford to give up my day job.
And that's often very common, very common. I know I've got one client now, again, they would have started in the front room of their house, wholesaler
Yeah,
of pipes, flanges, fittings, that kind of stuff. And I think, they'll be probably turning over about 60 million now these days. And
yeah.
with the attendant profit cash flow.
I've a little bit to go.
Well, now this is 30 years on, but anyway, you keep growing, you can keep doing it.
Yeah,
Everything is possible. Listen, Barry, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I know our viewers will learn from some of the stuff we've been talking about here. Thanks
yeah.
again.
But my advice yet is, you know what I mean? Seek the help. It's out there. For me, it was talking to people like yourself, business advisors, and I got a lot of that help through local enterprise.
Brilliant. Yeah, they're very helpful at that stage.
Very helpful. Very helpful. That's great. Listen, Kevin, thanks so much.